Hi, I'm Dylan Rule, and welcome to our video on safety. Before we get started, there are a few things to remember about the personal protective equipment assigned to you. Always wear the PPE that is assigned to you when it is required. Make sure that you have the size and type that fits you. Inspect it before each use, and understand that if there is a problem, you should report it to your supervisor immediately. If your PPE is worn or damaged in any way, please get a replacement immediately. Never use compromised personal protective equipment. And lastly, always keep your personal protective equipment clean. First, we're going to discuss the specific requirements for the deli department. Let's start off with the kitchen prep area. There are a few important things you'll need to keep in mind. Cut-resistant gloves, sleeves, and hot pads or gloves are required in these areas. Cut-resistant gloves are required when cutting and preparing food. As soon as you're done cutting, remember, if it isn't in your hand, it should be in the stand. Make sure to clean the knife promptly after its use, so we don't leave it laying around. Gloves and sleeves are required whenever you're handling hot items, like the one shown here. Additionally, when using the fryer, you're expected to wear goggles or safety glasses. Always remember to use safe cutting measures whenever you are cutting things, be it a box or a piece of meat. Always cut away from you, as shown here in the video. Next, let's talk about our requirements for the grocery department. One of the most important pieces of personal protective equipment for our grocery department employees is your footwear. Always make sure to wear non-slip footwear, like the ones pictured here. Sandals, flip-flops, high heels, and dress shoes are not appropriate while working for Boyers. Breaking open boxes and breaking apart pallets can be hard on your hands. If you so choose, gloves are available for your use, but they are not required. An additional safety concern for our grocery department is the use of step stools. Anytime you're using a step stool, do your best to maintain 3 points of contact, and make sure to put it away after you're done with it. One part of your job may include utilizing this machine, the baler. Only teammates that have been trained and are at least 18 years old may operate this. Additionally, we do not allow outside employees to use this piece of machinery. The next department we're going to talk about is our meat department. As you can see here, our teammate Dave is wearing all the required pieces of personal protective equipment, including his cut-resistant glove and apron. Cut-resistant gloves are required when cutting and preparing food. It's also a good idea to use plastic gloves over top of the gloves to keep them clean. Those gloves cannot be worn whenever you're using a rotating piece of machinery, such as this bandsaw. When a piece is 4 inches or less, you should also be using this guide. Next, here we have the cuber. Again, an example of a piece where you shouldn't be using a cut-resistant glove. And if you have a jam, make sure to turn the machine off before removing the cover. No personal protective equipment is required when using this shrink wrapper, but use caution. The hot plate can be quite hot and has burnt employees in the past. The next thing covers all departments. Always use safe lifting practices and bend with your knees, not your back, just like Dave is doing here. This is an example of safe lifting, and you're expected to lift safely when working at Boyers. The next department we're going to cover is our bakery. Cut-resistant gloves, sleeves, and hot pads are required whenever you're working within the bakery. Let's start with the bakery prep area. Whenever you're taking food out or putting food into an oven, it's important that you wear both the sleeves and the hot gloves. Gloves are dangerous around rotating pieces of equipment, so it's important when you're using the mixer that you not wear gloves, as your hands could potentially be sucked into the piece of equipment if the tip of your glove makes contact with the rotating piece. And always use the machine guard that is available to you, as shown here. When cutting, it's important to wear our cut-resistant gloves. This is a requirement when working in the bakery department. Next, we're going to discuss our personal protective equipment requirements in the produce department. Whenever you're cutting produce or fruit, it is very important to wear cut-resistant gloves. Next, let's talk about our front end. What type of personal protective equipment is required in this area? Well, like all of our departments, good footwear is key. But in the front end, because you're going to be spending so much time standing, it's very important to have these anti-fatigue mats in place at all times. Lastly, whenever you're going out for carts, it is required to wear a reflective vest, like the one pictured here. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope this has been informative for you. And please know, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask your supervisor. Thanks, and have a safe day.